Here's a good question. All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Today is Daf Hey, the second Rosh Hashanah.
Way too excited.
So we left off yesterday.
Whoa. And away.
First, before we read it, so away we go. Right? So we left off yesterday. We were discussing the Regalim. So bring it all the way back. So we said Regalim are for New Year is in the month of Nisan. The Gemara says what's nafkamin is, so that we answer for the halacha of Baal Ta'acher, of one should not delay bringing his carbon, and many one should not delay. Once you hit a certain point, it's considered to be late. So it has to do with bringing by. If you don't come to the holidays and bring it, so we have a 5-way machlokas as to how one is violating Baal Ta'acher, right? 3 or 3 in order, or Dafka Sukkos, or any holiday, or 2 holidays, right? So a couple of them use the pasuk of where it says list all the holidays, and it brought another pasuk. So they brought the pasuk of Shalosh Pamim, B'Shana Yerikol Zechurchas Pnei Hashem Lekach, right? Makom Sheyuchar B'Chag Masas, replies to repeat it to tell you about Ta'acher if you don't bring it. Fine. So those who didn't bring that, what did you use that pasuk for? So they used that pasuk to teach a couple of other halachas, and one of the halachas were that Shavuos requires if one missed Shavuos, he didn't bring it, so he has basically a week to do Tashlumin. So we left off on the third line from the top on Hey Amud Aleph, and the way we go, the Tanakama, Rabbi Shimon. Tashlumin that Atzeres Menalu. So if they use that pasuk for the other reason we said earlier to teach you that regarding the timing of Baal Ta'acher, that hey, Amud Aleph, like 3 lines on the top. So what do they do with the pasuk of for Tashlumin? If the others learn that from there, but they already use the pasuk for something else. How do you know that Shavuos that you can go ahead and bring the carbon after if you miss it after Shavuos the week after? So Menalu, so Nafkalu. That which was taught by Rabbi Bar Shmuel, the Tani Rabbi Shmuel, Amar Torah says, Mana Yamim, the Kiddush Chodesh, right? Count days, right? You have your month, and then your Kiddush Chodesh, right? Then your Kiddush Chodesh, you count days, whether it's you count 29 days in the 30th of Rosh Chodesh, you count 30 days in the 31st of Rosh Chodesh, right? And Mana Yamim, the Kiddush and also count days or periods of time or weeks, right? Or over there it says specifically count days and be sanctify Shavuos, right? Count 49 days. Just like by Chodesh that we celebrate, the Rosh Chodesh is celebrated for the amount of times for the periods that it's being counted for, i.e., it's being counted by days. Therefore, we celebrate Rosh Chodesh for a day. So too, Atzeres, Shavuos should be celebrated by its count. We count 7 weeks, right? So therefore, Shavuos is celebrated for a week. It's not celebrated for a week. No, but you can bring your carbon for a week. So the verse says, if that's the case, Atzeres. So say it's 1 day. It also says you count 1 days, right? Count 49 days. So Amarava, Atu Atzeres, Yomim Menina, and Shavui Lo Menina. What do you mean? You only count, even if you say, okay, you only count days and not weeks, you count weeks too. Right, and also we learn mitzvah mitzvah right? As we learn, it's the mitzvah to count the days and mitzvah to count the weeks. The Yod, and furthermore, Chag Shavuos Ksiv. It's called Chag Shavuos, right? It's called the holiday of weeks, right? So therefore, it's a period of week. The count is counting of weeks, 7 weeks, and therefore the period of time where one can quote unquote celebrate or bring the Tashlumin is for a week following Shavuos. Fine. Now, we said, yes, we had a whole list of karbanos which are subject to Baal Ta'acher. We had a brisa, and it was listed. The brisa was actually at the bottom of, I think it was Dalad Amud Aleph into Dalad Amud Beis. Actually, I think the last word of Dalad Amud Aleph was the word that sort of throws everyone off. It says it there. Right, and where the brisa appears in the bottom of Dalam and Aleph, right, 2 lines in the bottom. So it lists all the things that are subject to the halacha of Baal Ta'acher, and it mentions in there Pesach, right? The Pesach. So the Gemara says Pesach bar Mika the Regalim. Understand? the current Pesach has to be brought, right? If you come to Shavuos, Pesach, or Sukkot, right? Pesach is Zimna Kaviyah, like, right? Pesach has a time. You bring it the 14th of Nisan, right? Right? If you go ahead and you offer it, you have to offer it on the 14th. If you don't do it, then it's over, right? But there's no Baal Tacher. What does it mean? Why does this Brisa list the current Pesach is included, and that which is subject to Baal Tacher? Baal Tacher is, okay, I'm going to bring these animals as shlamim, and then I let it sit in my yard for 2 years or whatever it is, and I pass a certain amount of time. Now it's considered I delayed. But what does that do with my current Pesach? So the Gemara answers. Some Rav Chisda Pesach in Nazba. Rav Chisda says really it's mentioned for no reason. In other words, oftentimes the current Pesach is mentioned, right? Because Kachi Kalim is mentioned with Meiser Behema and Bechor. So therefore, they also mention it also. And Rav Sheish Amar,
with the Shalmei Chagiga, is that it?
No.
When are they trying to compare it to?
Which
We had
our Brisa said these are the different items that one is subject to Baal Tacher. Baal Tacher is the isser of you should not delay bringing your korban, right? You're commanded to bring a korban. So what does that do with the Korban Pesach? Korban Pesach, I'm commanded to bring the 14th, right? If I don't bring the 14th, I miss the Korban Pesach. It has nothing to do with Baal Tacher. What does it mean if I miss 3 yontifs? I violate Baal Tacher by not bringing my Korban Pesach? What's going on here? Yeah, but that's not right with bringing it over Sukkot or bringing over Shavuos. If Shavuos passes and I don't offer it on Shavuos, I'm violate Baal Tacher for my Korban Pesach. What's going on here? So the Gemara says, but that's not Pesach.
right.
There's a whole list of korbanos there. It mentions Hashamos, Olos, Shlomim, Chatos. It mentions other things. It also mentions Pesach. Was Pesach time? So that's the first teres. Second is Rav Sheish Zomar, my Pesach, Shlomim Pesach, right? It's it's the Korban Pesach that it was supposed to be brought, right? And it wasn't brought. Bismana was lost. He replaced it. He brought another one. So this Pesach turns into a shlom, becomes a shlom. So maybe it's referring to that. See, hachi hainu shlomim. It already lists shlomim. So where answers now tana shlomim haboy machos Pesach, tana shlomim haboy machos atzva. There's both types of shlomim. Both a shlomim that one says, okay, this animal is going to be a shlomim, or versus an animal which is a Korban Pesach, it got lost, right? You got to get another replacement, or you offered it and all of a sudden found the second one, or even found it before, right? So therefore, that is a shlomim. So, and why to teach both? That both of them are subject to Baal Tacher. So maybe you think since it's like the current Pesach, since it came from the current Pesach, it was originally made hektish, made kodesh through, becoming a current Pesach, right? Kepesach, when they're first coming to current Pesach, top of the page, right? In other words, that maybe even if I miss one regel, I'd be chayiv, right? Kamash Balon, that. One is chayiv on this for Baal Tacher, like any others, like the shlomim. That whether depending on the machlokes, whether it's 3 yontifs or 3 in order. So fine. Now, minahani mili. How do we know this? So what's the source of this entire brisa? The Tanur Rabbanan, as we learned, it says the pasuk says the main pasuk over here in Dvarim. It says kisidor neder. It says when you make a neder, right? I'm just going to read the pasuk. The pasuk says. Kisidor nader laHashem Elokecha lo sa'acher l'shalmo kidorish hidushenu Hashem Elokecha meibach v'haya b'chachet. Right? I always got to be very careful reading Psukim around Nazi, right? No mistakes. Yeah. I look at the side. I have to look really close to the Nekutos. Make sure I don't get corrected here. So fine. So when he makes a nether, so ein li ela nether. So okay, so let's go. I only know a nether. This pasuk says when a person makes a nether, he shouldn't delay it to pay it. He shouldn't delay his payment. Right, Hashem, and if he does, he's violated. He's in violation. So we learn from that pasuk. The kisi don't nether and liela nether. I only know nether. Nedava minayid. How about a nedava? Right, nether is I will go ahead and do something. A nedava is this item is on the item. Right. So nedava minayid nemar kan nether of a nether. Says nemar kan nether. V'nemar lahalon. I assume it says nether. Right. Im nether of the dava. So it says over there, Ma lohalon. Over there is Nadava Imo. I've kind of Nadava Imo. So over here, just like over there, it was Nether and Nadava. So over here, when it says Kis Nether, it's included Nadava with it. And then it says La Hashem Elokecha to Hashem. Eluch Hadamim Ha'erichin V'Acharam V'Kadeshos. These are things that are given to Hashem, whether it's Bedek Habayis or the Beis Hamikdash, there's nothing to do with the Kohanim or other people. So therefore, that's like complete Hashem Elokecha. That's referred to those items that are subject to Baal Tacher. And that says Lo Sa'acher L'Shalmo. You should not go ahead and delay it to pay it. Who? V'lo chilufa. But now it's only it. This carbon, right? If he doesn't bring it, then he's violated, but not in exchange. And we'll soon see what that is referring to. The Gemara will explain. And kidarish either ashenu, right? Because he's el chatos, the shamos oz, the shlamim, right? Because those items, right, which are referring to that he has to go ahead and he's demanded from kidarish the rishenu is demanded. So these are his obligations to bring, such as a chatas or an asham or an ola or shlamim. Any of these cases, there are obligations for all of them. So for those, if one doesn't bring it in time, he's violated Baal Tachir. And then it says Hashem Lokecha again, which is repeated for no reason. So Eilat Tzedakos B'Maisos. He's referring to other tzedakos, which one goes ahead and says, he will give tzedakah or meister is referring to meister behema, because all these say, right? So these cases over there, by the Psukim, it says Hashem Lokecha. So Hashem Lokecha is referencing these karbanos. So these karbanos, it says Hashem Lokecha is referring to these karbanos. And then it says, Mei imach, right? From your people, right? The people of your nation, the poor people of your nation. That means that if you don't go ahead and give within the appropriate time, right? Then it's also violated. And then you will have an avera, a sin. But however, your carbon will not be chet. In other words, your carbon can still be offered. And even though I delayed my shlama or my chatas, and after the amount of time, I was supposed to bring it within 3 shlosh regalim, and I didn't do it, and the animal's still in my backyard, we don't say it becomes puzzle. You still bring it, even if it's 4 years later. They'll still take it.
Because you can't bring an animal that's under 2 years.
Okay, so right, you get that. So that's right. So no, well, certain kabbalah says required the first year, second year, older, right? So Amar Mar,
You can't you sell it and redeem it as take the money?
but only if it develops a moon. If it develops a moon, then you can go ahead and redeem for others. Others, right? Otherwise, you make it a what's it called? You have a problem tomorrow. Anyways, Amar Mar, the shalmo. So it says, we mentioned earlier, right? You don't delay it in offering it, but that's chilufa. So chilufa mine. What do we mean? What's this chance? If it's something which was exchanged for olo shlamim, let's say Lasik replaced it, so make it card. So those are supposed to be offered, right? In other words, those are supposed to be offered, and if you offer it in time, that's what you're supposed to do. If you don't offer in time, you should violate Baal Tachir. And if we're talking about, let's say he lost a chatas and he chatas, the chatas made zozla. There's no such thing as extra chatas. So you find that he has to be left to die. Selamai chilufa toda. Right? It's an exchange for a carbon toda. The tani Rabbi Chia toda shenis arba b'tmurasa. The carbon toda, it came, it was lost. He replaced or he made a tamura from it, right? And then all of a sudden he has two of them. They're both together. And one of them dies. He doesn't know which one died. So the one that's alive has no takana. Why? How are you going to do it? If you're going to go ahead and offer it, and it's 40 loaves that go along with the toda, because that is the halacha. A toda is going to be by 40 breads. So dilma tmurahi, which is leak from tmurahi. Right? Perhaps this is the tamura. Now the tamura, the exchange for a carbon toda, one says, okay, this will replace that animal, and there was no moon. The second animal becomes a tamura, and both of them now have sanctity, and he actually helped himself. He actually made the situation worse, right? Because this first animal is still hektish, and now his second animal is. But the halach is by tamura, they don't offer it with loaves. So if he had the two of them are mixed together and one of them died, so what do I do with the other one? If I offer with loaves, perhaps it's tamura. The karev lechem bahad. If I offer dilma tamurahi, the karev below. If I offer without any bread, dilma todahi, perhaps the actual toda, which has to be brought with bread.
Is it a problem to do that?
Right. So in other words, why you say actually, yeah. So the charetz, yeah. So the charetz. Right. So you just say, right. You say if it's a toda, it's the bread. If not, it's just but there's no such thing as a nadava of a bread offering. So therefore, it's not like you're bringing extra oil or something like that. There's no, extra, right. And if that's the case, if you're stuck, you can't offer this animal because you can't offer with bread or without bread. So then how could you possibly violate Baal Tachir by not bringing it on time? I'm not allowed to bring it. So obviously it can't be referring to that situation. So really, it's an exchange for the Olo Shlamim. In other words, that one is not subject to being late. Perhaps 2 regalim already passed it. All right. So we said earlier, of course, it's subject to Baal Ta'achir if this is a replacement. So maybe the first one, you had an original one. It went past 2 months. Okay, you got one more holidays. Excuse me, past 2 holidays, right? And now all of a sudden, hey, Sukkot comes around, you're going to violate if you don't bring it. No problem. All of a sudden, July or August, it develops a moon. So he replaced it with another one, right? The says, okay, the sanctity of this one is on my new animal, right? The over love regalecha, right? And therefore he violates, right? And, he only has one, right? He only has one regal left, right? So since he's thinking, well, this originally the kedusha came for the first animal, which had 2 holidays that passed, and this one just passed the 3rd holiday. And therefore, it's like the kedusha has passed 3 holidays. In other words, you include the 2 holidays that were missed, that was not brought from the first animal before it developed a moment, and this one. Kamash Malon, that know that since once it becomes its own chilufin, it gets its own, the count is restarted of holidays. Now, this works well according to the opinion to need 3 holidays. However, Meir, Damar came and Shavar Love Regalech, but according to our Meir, who holds only 1 holiday. So the whole chiddush is that when you pass 2 holidays and you have to switch it to another animal, in that case, you don't violate the Baal Ta'achir until you get 3 holidays. But if you hold there's only 1 holiday, so right, you're already violated. Maybe it developed a movement within the regal, the chilu, and then he switched the kedusha to another one. Vavar love regal, then the regal passes. So could I say, you might think the same, that just like since it came from the first animal who began the holiday, if you include the 2 of them together, it went completely through Sukkot, right? And therefore he violated that no, since this animal only got his kedusha, let's say mid Sukkot, so Sukkot doesn't count. He gets to wait till Pesach. If he doesn't bring it for Pesach, then he violates it. Right, because the first animal became a Balmum in the middle of Sukkot, let's say. So he switched it. He says, okay, the kedusha of this animal should be on this animal, right? And therefore he removed the kedusha of the first one because it was a Balmum. Fine. It says you will have an Aveira, but not your korban. In other words, your korban can still be brought. All right. You learn from here. We learn it from the Acherim. The time in the Brisa, Acherim Aimrib, Yachaya Bechor Sha'avra Shnasa, Kisulim Akdashin, Beivso. You might think that a Bechor, one is commanded to go ahead to offer the Bechor, right, within its first year. Right? You're supposed to bring it within the first year. That's the optimal time. So you might think that if you don't bring it in its first year, it's like any animal, Psulim Akdashin. Let's say an animal was brought outside the temple, or animal was piggle, or whatever, you can't offer it. So maybe an animal that was not brought in its first, a bechor is not brought in its first year, should become puzzle. Therefore, it says, so it says it all together, right? So it says you should eat before Hashem all these items. So makish bechor lemaiser. So therefore, we learn to make a hakish bechor to the meiser. So ma meiser ain't an ifsal, just like by meiser, it does not become possible. You can eat it even the Mishana Chaverta, you can eat it for the next year. In other words, that this the meiser sheni, right, that you separated, you can go ahead and have it over for the next year. So just like meiser is not nifsal Mishana Chaverta, af bechor ain't nifsal Mishana Chaverta. So to a bechor is not pushed off from one year to another. So therefore, what do you see over here? That even though you're supposed to bring it in the first year, but if I don't bring it in the first year, it's still a good bechor. You're still supposed to bring it. You're supposed to offer it. So it's not good. So you see, here's an example of an animal that's missed its time, right? You've delayed its time, but it's still good after the time. You delayed bringing your shlamim within the first 3 regalim, right? You can still bring it afterwards. So why do you need the source of our pasuk of leibechachet? And as bechavul have v'lo bekarbancha. So the question is, no, eat strict. We need it. Why? Maybe this only applies to a bechor, right? This only applies to a bechor. The lav baratzahu, because the bechor doesn't come to appease Hashem, right? It's not coming. You're coming for an avera, right? It's not something wrong. But something which has to be accepted, right? For kapara, right? Amalo, maybe not. I would say amalo lirtzu. Maybe that would not work. Kamash one. That's teaching you that it does work. Just a couple more, 2 more lines. The Akkad Gemara says. Akati, actually, we learn from another source, right? That if something afterwards is late, it's still okay, right? The tiny learner by says also. The pasuk over there says regarding pigel. It says over there, it says also matam leimar. The pasuk over there says it could just said hamakir leichashit, right? In other words, the leirat say hamakir leichashit, right? The one who offers it when he was also. So matam leifishin amar loisaacher l'shalmo. Since it says one should not go ahead and delay, a korban. Shomeyani me'acher nidra b'bayirotze. Maybe I would think that even that I would say that if a person goes ahead and has delayed and not brought his korban, I would say also it's bal yirotze. It's not accepted. Tamalaymar also. Therefore, it says also by pigel. Also, only something which is pigel, if you brought it, it's not accepted. However, but something which is delayed is not ba'yiratza. So you see over here that something that is brought, right, even beyond time, is not needed. So Ella, so if that's the case, what does b'chachet mean? Ella b'chachet lo b'ishtecha. Rather, only you get the violation, but your wife will not be punished. Why? Excuse me. So good, Rabbi Elazar. That since it was taught by either Rabbi Yochanan or some say it was Rabbi Elazar. A person's wife will be safe, won't die unless basically he stole money and he does not have the money to repay it. As the pasuk says, right? If he doesn't have from what to pay, should you go ahead and take his bed from underneath him? And some say his bed is of his wife. So his wife will be taken underneath him. Maybe you think like it's similar that I said I was going to go ahead and give the Beis Hamikdash money, and I didn't give him money. Maybe my wife should be taken, just like if I steal money, I don't have to pay back. Kamash Balan, that only you get the chet, but there is no chet with one's wife. All right, we'll stop here. Shkoyach, everybody.